Welcome to Locked On Heat. The Heat are on All-Star break, and when they come back, it's a 2-month sprint to the playoffs. On today's show, I'll tell you everything that they need to accomplish between now and then to make the most of this season and going forward.
You are Locked On Heat, your daily Miami Heat podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to Locked On Heat, your daily podcast on the Miami Heat, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Whether you're tuning in on YouTube or on your favorite podcast app, thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Join the Cookie Gang, become an everydayer. That means subscribing, tuning in every day, Monday through Friday, and signing up for the Everydayer Club with the link in the show notes. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. I'm Wes Goldberg, host of Locked On NBA Daily and Real GM Radio. I'm a credentialed Heat media member who covers this team every day. Jam-packed show for you today. I'm talking about what we need to see from the Heat when they come back from the All-Star break. I'll talk about some of the young guys. I'll talk about a starting lineup adjustment that I'd like to see. But let's start with the basics. The Heat enter the break 29-27. They're a half game behind the Magic for the number 7 seed. 3 games back in the loss column of the 76ers for the number 6 seed. They have the 8th easiest schedule in the league going forward. And according to Basketball Reference, and you're going to like this part, the Heat have a 53% chance of landing a top 6 seed and avoiding the play-in tournament altogether. Might surprise you based on how up and down and how inconsistent the Heat have been all season long, but you look at the standings in the Eastern Conference and it starts to make a little bit more sense, right? You've got Detroit, Boston, New York, and really Cleveland now with their recent win streak, 5-game win streak, cementing themselves as a clear top 4 in the Eastern Conference by record alone, right? That's all I'm talking about right now is record and standings. Then you have the Toronto Raptors, they're 32-23. You have the 76ers at 30-24. Orlando's there at 28-25. And Miami's there at 29-27. The Heat have played a very tough schedule through the season so far. They've not had a lot of rest days. They've played a lot of challenging opponents. They've had their long road trips are all done, and they're behind them. So that's the good news, right? Is that Miami at 29-27, the hardest part is behind them. Not only from a schedule perspective, but as we'll get to as the show goes on, from a health perspective, hopefully a health perspective as well. And so when you look at what this team could potentially accomplish, why not make that push for 6th place, at least in the Eastern Conference? I think that is a achievable and realistic goal. It's what David and I talked about on yesterday's show. And then you look at what Basketball Reference's playoff probabilities report says, giving the Heat a 53% chance of landing a top 6 seed. That's pretty good. And honestly, I was a little surprised when I saw that number, but it does make a little bit of sense. So in terms of what we want to see from the Miami Heat going forward, and that's what this show is all about. The Miami Heat are on All-Star break. It's time to take a step back, take stock of the season so far, and carve out a plan for the final 26 games of the season. What do we want that to look like? And I do think that the push for 6th place is important and should be the top goal in addition to some other things, but that should be the priority at least right now. Maybe in a month, we'll be talking about this season a little bit differently. Maybe we won't. Maybe we'll be talking about, hey, could this team get up to 5th, right? But right now, and obviously maybe we were talking about it going the other way, which we'll talk about here in a second. But right now, it should be make that push for 6th place. You're in 8th place right now. You're a half game back of the Magic. You need to have a better record than the Magic to pass them in the standings as virtue of the tiebreaker. And you're only 3 games back in the loss column of the 76ers, 2.5 games back overall. The other reason I think they need to make a push for 6, and I've given this some thought, and this really crystallized for me Monday night, going to the game, watching the Heat lose to the Jazz. And as disappointing of a loss as that was, talking to people around the Jazz, kind of seeing what that team is all about, and now Jaren Jackson Jr. is out with a season-ending knee surgery. Okay. And seeing just what the rest of the league is doing in terms of tanking and the shamelessness of it, And I know that there are a lot of Heat fans out there that say the Heat never tank, and this is why they're stuck in the middle. And as we've told you here on the show before, the Heat have done the research. They've looked at the data. They've crunched the numbers. They have concluded tanking does not work consistently enough that we feel comfortable sacrificing multiple seasons, maybe even one season, in order to do that. I think there is a key caveat there in terms of, hey, you're not going to tank the entire season. 2 months to go, we're not tanking. Maybe a month to go, we're not tanking. But if you get to a point where you're a week or two left in the season and it's, are we going to make the play-in tournament or not? Then I think that's a decision that's worth making. And I'll take you back to last year. The Heat making it into the play-in tournament in that 9-10 bracket. It was either that or fall out of the play-in altogether and have a chance at the lottery. And the pick that the lottery slot that Miami might have had was the one that Dallas had and ended up becoming the number one pick and getting Cooper Flagg. And we're talking about this Heat team a lot differently if they end up taking Cooper Flagg, getting him in that draft. Not to do the woulda, coulda, shoulda thing. That's not what I'm trying to do here. But I do think that's an instance where there's a solid argument to be made. Missing the playoffs and getting that lottery ticket is worth it. But the Heat can't fall out of the play-in tournament this year. That option is not available to them. You look behind them. Charlotte is coming on, right? They're 26-29, 2.5 games back of Miami. They got to fight Charlotte off in terms of the 7-8 bracket part of the play-in tournament. Atlanta's there at 26-30, but behind them, I mean, the Bulls are 4.5 games behind the Miami Heat. The Bucks are 5 games behind Miami. Brooklyn, Indiana, Washington, these teams aren't making moves up the standings. I bring this up only to say, even if you think the Heat should tank, it's going to be really hard to do it. Because there's a lot of bad teams, not only in the Eastern Conference, those are the teams obviously that Miami has to be concerned about, but in the Western Conference as well. Tanking, if you haven't committed to it, is really difficult this season because the tanking has been that shameless this year. Now, they could lose in the play-in tournament and get a chance in the lottery. That's a different kind of conversation. But I'm talking about regular season in terms of the standings. It's going to be really hard to fall out of the play-in tournament, nearly impossible for the Miami Heat to do it. So I don't think there's a conversation or a decision to be had like we were talking about at the end of last season, make the play-in or tank it, get the lottery ticket. This year it's make the play-in, do the play-in thing, or get out of the play-in. And I'm watching all these teams tank, and because they've committed to it, I just don't see the benefit of Miami doing it at this point. And honestly, just from a basketball purist perspective, man, call me the Heat homer. I like a team that goes out and competes. Like, I got to watch a lot of basketball. I do Locked On Heat. I do Locked On NBA every day also. I do Real Jam Radio every day. I have to watch the NBA every year. It's nice to see a Heat team, as inconsistent and as frustrating as they might be this season, at least know they actually want to win these games. Maybe they don't always win these games, but they want to win these games. So there's that. So that's the big overall point that I wanted to start off with. What's the goal for the rest of the season right now as we stand here at the All-Star break? Heat 29-27, a half game back of the Magic for the 7th seed, a couple of games back of the Sixers for that 6th seed. Push for 6th place. That's the big goal. Now, how do you do it? How do you get there? And how do you do it without sacrificing the future? That to me is the interesting thing. And I do think it's a needle that the Heat need to thread and can thread. We're going to talk about that coming up next here on Locked On Heat. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The Winter Games are officially here. And if you're anything like us, you're locking in for events you only get to see on the biggest stage every 4 years. And that's why following the Winter Games on FanDuel just makes sense. From medal counts to individual events to finding your angle on the sports that you care about most, FanDuel gives you more ways to stay connected to the action. The drama of curling matches that start slow and somehow get intense fast, speed skating races decided by inches, hockey games that feel different right from the opening face-off. Every niche event becomes must-watch when you're fully locked into the competition. FanDuel keeps the entire Olympic experience engaging from start to finish. The Winter Games are on, and there's no better way to follow them than with FanDuel. FanDuel, play your game. Today's episode is also brought to you by Indeed, because instead of hoping the right person stumbles across your job post, Indeed helps you match with quality candidates by boosting your job listing to the people who fit your specific criteria like skills, certifications, and location. Because with Indeed, hiring isn't just about finding somebody willing to take the job, it's about finding the right person with the right background who can actually help your business move forward. And if you want candidates who match what you're looking for, Indeed sponsored jobs is the move. If I were hiring, I wouldn't just want somebody that could help. I'd want somebody with real experience who can jump right in. That's what I like about Indeed. You can get specific and target exactly what you need. It saves time because you're spending less energy sorting through mismatches. And with sponsored jobs, your post gets seen by candidates who actually are a good fit. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute that I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all of your boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help you get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Do it the right way with Indeed. Thanks again for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. As you might have heard us mention on the show, we recently launched a new subscription program called the Everydayer Club that includes ad-free shows and access to a group chat for Heat fans on Discord. Well, now we're launching an all-new, all-access tier as part of that program that includes even more. If you sign up, you're going to get the perks that I just mentioned, plus the ability to text me and David directly, submit questions for post-game shows, and subscriber-exclusive episodes of Locked On Heat. If you're interested in being part of the Cookie Gang and joining the Everydayer Club, tap the link in the show notes or head to lockedonheat.supercast to learn more. Let's talk about the other things that I want to see from the Heat going forward over the final 26 games of the season. And high up on that list is seeing Bam Adebayo and Kel'el Ware play more minutes together. And we've gotten really encouraging signs from that pairing lately, not just from them on the court, but also what we've heard from Erik Spoelstra in his press conferences. He sounds a little bit different when he's talking about them. I think that there has been an organizational recommitment to seeing what Bam and Ware can do when they're on the court. Part of that maybe was brought up because of injuries and the fact that eventually you just got to play some of your best guys and you got to play your best guys together at some point. But I also think after not trading Kel'el for Giannis, I think this organization looked at itself and said, all right, well, are we ever going to trade Kel'el Ware for Giannis? And if not, we really got to see what we have here. So I like the commitment to seeing what it can do. I understand why Erik Spoelstra got away from it when he did. It wasn't working. And the Heat, like we just talked about, are trying to win games. They're trying to make this playoff push, all these things. And you looked at the numbers weren't good. You would think Bam and Ware together, they'd be better at rebounding. Nope. They were a better rebounding team when one of them was on the court without the other one. Defensively, they'd be better, right? More rim protection. Nope. They were better defensively with Bam on the court without Ware, and they were better defensively with Ware on the court without Bam than when they were both on the court together. Strangely enough. There was really no benefit to playing them together in the moment, right? Based on the results that we had early in the season. So I understood why Spo went away from it when he did. But I also understand why Spo is coming back to it when he is. And the encouraging sign of this is they've been playing better together. All those numbers I talked about them being a minus net rating when those two guys were on the court together, that's not the case anymore. According to Cleaning the Glass, now the Heat are plus 2.8 points per 100 possessions better, or outscoring opponents rather, by 2.8 points per 100 possessions when Bam and Ware are on the court together. That number's trending up, folks. That's a good sign. They still struggle a little bit offensively. They're solid defensively. The rebounding numbers are getting better. And what I really like, just anecdotally watching this team, they're playing off of each other. Still something that they need to figure out a little bit more. But I like that in the last game against New Orleans, scripted play from the first possession for the Heat. Bam Adebayo driving, kicks out to Kel'el Ware in the corner for a three. The more Bam and Ware can connect and play off of each other, the better. I want to see Bam passing to Ware more. I don't expect Ware to be passing to Bam a whole lot. That's not really part of Kel'el's game. Kel'el is a play finisher, not a play starter. Bam, though, Bam has made a career kind of being both. That's what makes him so versatile, right? He could start plays, he can finish plays. I'd like to see Bam finding ways to get Kel'el involved a little bit more. Getting those two guys to connect offensively is the key to making it work. It's not just one standing out in the corner, the other one in the dunker spot, and just doing the spacing thing. These guys need to interact offensively. And the only way they're going to do it is by being on the court together and getting those reps. And yeah, it's nice when it's a scripted play to start the game against New Orleans. I'd like to see it a little bit more in the flow of a game, right? Because I didn't really see that for the rest of that game, but practice makes perfect. More reps, the more opportunities there are to hash that kind of thing out. So I want to see more of those guys together. Another thing that I want to see going forward this season, I want to see Tyler Herro play. So that's the big part of this now. Tyler Herro, is he going to play? Eric Spoelstra was asked about this before the New Orleans game. He said that he is expecting Tyler Herro back at some point after the All-Star break. There is no timetable whatsoever. I have no idea when Tyler Herro is going to come back, but I can confirm, yes, the Heat do not plan for Tyler Herro to miss the rest of the season. Internally, there is an expectation that Tyler Herro will play again this season. They just don't know when that's going to be. But when he does come back, what I would like to see is, yes, I want to see Tyler Herro back in the starting lineup. I've given this a lot of thought. I've gone both ways on this. Right now, I'm of the mind that I want to see Tyler Herro start. I want to see a new starting lineup, though. I want to see Tyler Herro, Norm Powell, Andrew Wiggins, Bam Adebayo, Kel'el Ware. That's the starting group that I'd like to see. If you can get Herro back in time where you can get that group real reps, right? I'm not talking about, hey, last week of the season, throw Herro out there. If that's the point, just bring Herro off the bench. Because I don't think, if you're playing well, obviously, at that point, because I don't think you want to mix things up. But if you can get Herro back in a timely manner where you get some real runway with a new rotation, that's the starting five that I'd like to see. Herro, Powell, Wiggs, Bam, Ware. You get the two bigs in the front court with Bam and Ware. You get Wiggs as your two-way small forward, obviously. And then you get real scoring punch with Tyler Herro and Norm Powell. Now, the guy that's going to the bench there is Davion Mitchell. And there was a point in this season where it felt like Davion Mitchell could not be taken out of that starting lineup. Not only because of his point of attack defense, but his ability to get downhill, his transition attack, his passing. But as the season has gone on, Davion feels like he's been a little bit less impactful. And he's not been playing his best basketball lately. And frankly, there's too many, forced mid-range jumpers for my liking. I'd like him to have a little bit of a quicker trigger with the three ball. Sometimes the pass comes a little bit too late. And this part necessarily is not his fault. But as the Heat have kind of gotten away from that up-tempo offense, the wheel offense, all that stuff from the beginning of the year, Davion Mitchell's impact on the offense has diminished. He's maybe feeling that more than anybody else. And so I don't think I'm not saying take him out of the lineup altogether. I'm just saying doesn't necessarily need to start anymore. And you're going to be missing your point of attack defender without Davion Mitchell. That's where I'm really worried about this, obviously, is defensively. But I guess the idea is if you're going to be playing Bam and Ware a lot right now, defensively they're going to get better. Wiggs is a very capable perimeter defender. And we've seen Eric Spoelstra put good defenses together with less. Right now, Miami is 4th in defensive rating. They're 18th in offensive rating. You need to do something to juice this offense. They cannot be in the bottom half of the league offensively. And that comes at a cost. It comes at a decision, right? You only have 5 starters. You got to make a decision. So either you're going to bench Ware or you're going to bench Davion. If you're going to, and as we already discussed, I think for the future of this team, you need to see what Bam and Ware can do. So Davion's sort of the odd man out. Obviously, if you want, you could just bring Herro off the bench. But the ceiling of this team is one with Herro in the starting lineup. And I do think that there's a way to, if it costs you a little bit defensively, hopefully you can maintain a top 10 defense, but then have this offense start to flirt a little bit more with top 10 status with a different kind of starting lineup. The bench, that said, would be Davion Mitchell, Kasparas Jakucionis, Pelle Larsson, Jaime Jaquez Jr., and I suppose Nikola Jovic. We'll talk about Nico here in a little bit. Out of the rotation then, Drew Smith, Simone Fontecchio. Now there'll be injuries. Those guys will get minutes. That's fine. But the nightly rotation is that starting group and the 5 off the bench being Davion, Kaz, Pella, Jaime, Nico. And that brings us to Kasparas Jakucionis, and also brings me to my idea for my closing lineup and what we want to see more of from Jaime Jaquez Jr. and Nikola Jovic. We'll talk about all of that on the other side of this. Don't go anywhere. Today's episode of Locked On Heat is brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like being in an NBA arena, the crowd, the energy, the moment. Getting tickets, though, that part hasn't always been so simple. That's why Game Time has become the go-to app for scoring tickets fast without the hassle, and it puts the advantage back where it belongs, with the fans. I pulled up the Game Time app, I picked up an upcoming game, and I had tickets locked in within minutes. I love seeing the all-in price up front. That means no surprise fees at checkout. I was able to see the view from my seat before I made my purchase, making my decision easy, and I did it with confidence. Zone deals really stood out. I chose the section, Game Time picks the seats, and I saved money. They have great last-minute options, too, with NBA tickets showing up at solid prices right up to tip-off. Everything feels quick, intuitive, and stress-free from start to finish. So take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. That's code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. And remember, it's gametime.co, not gametime.com. So my idea for the closing lineup then, I gave you the starting lineup, I gave you the bench. Closing lineup, I still think it's Davion Mitchell for Kel'el Ware in most matchups, unless Kel'el Ware is playing well or you're playing a big team. I still think Davion Mitchell has an option of closing in that group. But that brings us to Kasparas Jakucionis, who is part of that bench unit over guys like Drew Smith and Simone Fontecchio. We're at the point now, Kaz just has to be part of the rotation going forward. And even if that costs you a little bit in terms of on-court production, which I don't think it does based on what we've seen the last week or so. He's been really good. He's frankly been better than Drew Smith. He's been better than Simone Fontecchio. There's nights where he's better than Davion Mitchell. So I don't think it costs you there. But he's a rookie, right? And rookies have ups and downs. You got to let him play through those ups and downs. And everything that I hear about Kaz behind the scenes, hard worker, total Heat culture guy, he's not in this situation right now, I don't believe. I have not been told this explicitly, but based on everything that I'm hearing, he's not in the situation now where if he doesn't play well on the court, if he misses some shots or whatever, even turns the ball or whatever it is, he's not going to get yanked the way that other players get yanked, perhaps, because maybe there are some more questions about how they approach the stuff off the court behind the scenes. Everything I hear about Kaz, it's similar to Pelle Larsson, approaches everything the way that the Heat want him to approach it. So I do think that Kaz has a long leash because of that. And that's a good thing. Because I want to see this guy play every single game he's healthy and available for. This guy needs to be getting minutes every single night. Not just because of what we've seen so far, but because, hey, this guy was considered a lottery type pick in the draft. He slides all the way to Miami at the end of the first round. The Heat grab him. They're super happy to get him where they got him. Little up and down start to the season. He's really found his footing now. We got to see what this guy is about. How good can this guy be? David and I talked about it a little bit on our last episode. Potential comps for him. He brought up Manu Ginobili. I brought up Bogdan Bogdanovic. Whatever. I want to see it more. What can this guy do? Is this a guy who could be part of Miami's future? Can he eventually be a starter for this group? Does he make some of these guards on the roster more expendable than maybe we had thought before? Is he a blue chip type of trade chip that the Heat can use over the summer to get Giannis or Donovan Mitchell or whoever becomes available? Jakucionis has to play. A couple other things that I want to see before I close it out here. Nikola Jovic, I just want to see him end of the year strong. His last 15 games have been rough. 5.7 points he's averaging on 32% shooting. He's 10 of 52 on three-pointers. He needs to get that three ball to fall. I want to see the body language get better with him. It has been a bad year for Nikola Jovic coming off of that contract extension. There's no two ways about it. It's been a bad year for Nico. It's been a disappointment for him, and he'd be the first to tell you it's been a disappointment. It's been a bad year for him. I'm not sure what's gotten in his way. I would have thought that this offense would have suited him. It didn't in the beginning when everybody was really committed to it and they were playing as fast as they were. It didn't get better when it slowed down. It didn't get better when they included more pick and roll and got him a little bit more, a few more looks in the corner out of it. It didn't look good when he started. It didn't look good when he came off the bench. Obviously, it didn't look good when he was out of the rotation. They've played him at the 4 and the 5. Hasn't looked good either way. He's had moments, but those moments have been fleeting and few and far between. But you got 26 games left, Nico. You can turn your season around. You can end the year strong, build some momentum going into the summer, and make everybody feel a little bit better about where you are, and have something to build off of going into next season when that contract extension starts. The season's not over. He can still make an impact here. The skill is there. We know what the skill set is. We know why the Heat have been so tantalized by it. We know why they gave him the extension. I don't know what it's gotten in his way so far this season, but if you can get over it and he can end the year strong, you could still salvage this year for Nikola Jovic going into next year. The other thing I want to see, Jaime Jaquez Jr., I just flat out want to see this guy win Sixth Man of the Year. I don't know if he's gonna, right? We'll see. He's averaging 15 points a game on 50% shooting, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists. He's currently third on FanDuel's Sixth Man of the Year odds. Naz Reid is number 1 at plus 185. Keldon Johnson is second at plus 300. Jaime Jaquez Jr. is at plus 500. That's followed by A.J. Mitchell, Reed Shepard, and Anthony Black. I think that top 3 is a pretty clear top 3. I think it's Naz Reid, Keldon Johnson, Jaime Jaquez Jr. I think Naz Reid has the production and the reputation of being a Sixth Man of the Year. But you talk to people around the league, a lot of people have seen what Jaime is doing, and they're very impressed. I think he has a real strong case. I think the Spurs end up getting the number 1 seed in the West, or even just staying at number 2. Keldon Johnson's going to have something to say here. A lot of voters might just say, you know what? San Antonio is really good. Does Victor Wembanyama qualify for end-of-season awards? Do we really feel like Mitch Johnson is the coach of the year? Do we kind of go Joe Mazzulla or somewhere else with this? If the Spurs are striking out at a bunch of end-of-season awards, I could see Keldon Johnson sort of just being the Spurs representative of end-of-season awards. And by the way, he's very deserving. He's been really important for San Antonio this year. But those are the kind of things that would be getting in the way of Jaime. But I think Jaime's production has been really good. I think he has been qualitatively, as a basketball player, as good, if not better, than Naz Reid, Keldon Johnson, or anybody else on this list. Jaime has been fantastic and consistently so all season long. I think he's a deserving Sixth Man of the Year winner. I still don't. He would have my vote right now. We'll see how things shake out 20-plus games from now as we get to the end of the season. But that's it. Overall, ending message, coming out of the All-Star break, the Heat don't have to tank, and they shouldn't. But they can do things that help them learn more about the players who figure to be a part of their future, or maybe a trade package this summer for the rest of the season. Either way, that's how the Heat should approach the rest of the season. Thanks for tuning in today to Locked On Heat. Make sure you subscribe, follow Locked On Heat so you get all the latest episodes. We'll talk to you soon.